Our lovely audience, make some noise. Yeah, I see you already had a chance to meet and chat, which is great. But let's do the officials, and we have a seminar today. The seminar is called Disco Masterclass. I'm personally also looking forward very much to hearing about this platform. I've had a lot of good feedback, so it's also going to be new stuff for me, which I'm excited about. So we're going to hear from Katrina Balcius here. Some round of applause. All the way from USA, right?
All the way from Los Angeles.
Nice. So as I have the bio here, apparently she's a business development and customer success expert in the music tech industry, and she had experience working with the likes of, please welcome, with the likes working with Amazon Studios and Warner Music Group, to name a few. So I'm going to be your moderator here for today, Tomas Paliūnas from the 51 Music Group. I'm going to be helping the audience and our guest speaker here connect. And this seminar is organized by Lithuanian Music Business Association and financed by the Lithuanian Council for Culture. So thank you very much to our sponsors and organizers. Make some noise for Vilma.
Vilma.
And the crew, of course. The whole crew, yeah. So why don't I hand over to you, Katrina, and I'll be here to support you as we hear from you.
Thank you. I've already learned a lot being here for 24 hours. I've learned I've been pronouncing my last name wrong for about 40 years. So thank you for telling me how to actually pronounce my last name.
Is that actually has a Lithuanian connection, do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm 40% Lithuanian.
Oh my God, wow.
So I'm with my people. Help me find my family too. That's also part of this weekend. Vilma said she was gonna help me. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's really delightful to be here and meet you all and tell you a little bit about disco, especially everyone's in the music industry here, and goals are always to get more eyes and ears on our artists and ourselves as artists. So, you know, first impressions matter when we're sending our music around, and disco definitely is the industry standard in most of the music markets, I would say. US, hands down, I would say almost every label, every music supervisor, every publisher is using it, as well as in the UK and Canada, and a lot of Europe, but this is the first time we've been boots on the ground here in Lithuania, so.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Lithuania is leading the way then.
Yeah,
Let's
leading
go.
the way. Yeah, actually, this is, I think, kudos to Vilma for making this happen, but I think you guys are the first music export office that we've come out to do a presentation with, so trendsetters.
Wow. Nice.
Okay, so who had heard of disco before this? Okay, cool. Did you guys had disco playlists sent to you or something like that? Seen it out in the wild?
Let's get the audience involved. Anyone who heard Agle heard of disco? Let's hear from Agle. I know she wants to say something.
This is a talk show now.
I was talking with Monica. What was the question? Sorry.
About disco, have you used it before? You've heard about it?
Yeah, just heard about it.
So
Okay.
Haven't used it. Heard the best experiences. Actually, one of our, I don't know how to call her, mentor. Yeah, music mentor. She's also from UC. She's from UK, yeah. So it was a session, and musicians were asking, and managers as well were asking, how to pitch my music and how to do all that stuff. So yeah, she recommended to use disco for that.
And that's how a lot of the growth of disco has happened, just from word of mouth. We only hired a marketing person 3 months ago. Otherwise, it's been I was telling Vilma earlier, it's when you find a new band and you're obsessed with them and then you want to tell everyone about it. Disco's that version for tech.
Well, that's the best marketing, right?
Right.
Word of mouth.
Yeah. And I think people get really passionate about it, which we're going to show you guys in a little bit why it's so great, but because it was built by music supervisors and built by people who have been in the music industry for years. So all of the founding teammates have either been a music supervisor, a sync agent, a manager, a tour manager. I used to pitch music for sync. So we've all done the job. So unlike other tools that maybe come on the scene where an engineer is oh, I have this idea of how to solve for the music industry, but they haven't actually done the job. there's like a disconnect there. So disco is definitely built by people like us. So yeah, supervisors started it. So it definitely started as like a sync tool. In Australia, level 2 music supervision, still an active music supervisor company now, and built disco really for themselves. It was actually their own internal music library and pitching tool. Our founder, Carl, had his iTunes library crash 3 times. And like for a music supervisor and for artists and managers, if your files are gone, like your lifeblood is gone. Like that's what we're using to do our work. So he was like, I can't have this happen anymore. So hired a developer to just kind of do like an MVP and used it internally for the supervision company. So had people send music to them. All of the music supervisors could have a shared library experience, see where they pitched things. And then from there, it just kind of blew up in Australia. Tiny music market. Well, I shouldn't say tiny, but they're smallish. Everyone knows everybody.
Smaller than the US, but still relatively big,
yes,
like compared to Lithuania, for example.
Exactly.
Right.
But like a lot of the music companies there and artists were like, oh, what are you guys using? Because historically it was just like Dropbox, SoundCloud, iTunes, which are fine for certain elements. But when we're talking about music files and presenting, that's like a whole other beast. And Dropbox just doesn't cut the mustard, in my opinion, on like looking good.
It's not really made for music, is it?
Exactly.
People use it for music. It does the job in low quantities of music, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're just sending one track a week or something, right?
Yeah,
but if you need more.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of a big key differentiator of disco versus other tools, which I'll show you on the next slide, but maybe just to highlight here the scale of disco. So 90% of music supervisors globally use disco. So if you guys are pitching for sync or you're interested in getting your music in sync, if you don't pitch on disco, they probably won't listen to it. The reason is you're making them do work, extra work, and no one has time for extra work anymore. So in disco, it just kind of sends it to where their workspace is. So it's like the easy music delivery. So no downloading and uploading. And then over 110 million files are on disco, tons of streams, as you can see, 4.8 million monthly streams, thousands of teams globally, so really has become industry standard. So yeah, as we're talking about tools, just to kind of conceptualize disco, there's you listening to your music, and then you had to use all of these tools to do the job. MailChimp to send your newsletters out, Dropbox to store your stems or your demos, SoundCloud for like fan engagement, which SoundCloud is still fine for, connecting with a certain fan base. But when we're talking about business to business sharing, if you send like a SoundCloud link to Spotify playlister, they're going to be like, wait, that's a competitor. Like disco, almost think of it as like a neutral territory too. We're the Switzerland of music sharing. And then just to kind of also give an idea on like who uses disco, all of the major labels. So Warner, UMG, like all of the UMG's frontline goes through disco. So they have about 2.2 million songs that they access and pitch out for various opportunities. So from the majors to some super cool indie publishers like Pulse, Reservoir Concord, Buddha Music in Germany, and then, looking at some brands that are using it, entire Netflix, all the songs you hear on Netflix all run through disco, Apple, Fox Sports, Disney, all the big players. So just thinking about, do I want to build connections with some of these rights holders and then brands for like sync? Again, like if you're sending them music on disco, it kind of is a flag to them that's like, you know what's up, you probably have your shit together, and I want to work with you.
I already have questions, but I'm sure they will be answered as we go. So
hey, this is like a small-ish group. We can just riff together.
I can fire one. So let's say there's some music film supervisors, right, that you want to send your music to, and they're not on disco just yet. So I assume you have to invite them on the platform somehow, and they join the platform and then they get music from you and other labels? How does it work?
Yeah, great question. So everyone has their own disco workspace, so think of it like your own personal library. If I create a pitch out of disco, then and I send that link, anyone can access that, whether they have disco or not.
Right.
If they have disco, they just don't have to download. If they don't, they still love to receive disco playlists, which coming soon, obviously I'll show you disco playlists and why it is helpful. But it's just everything's in one place. So there's no like, oh, I have to click 5 different links to get what I need. So if they don't have disco, they just download stuff and save it wherever they work.
Okay, so there's no real barrier for someone who doesn't have disco. They can still seamlessly access the link just like they would do on like Dropbox, as we mentioned.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yep. Cool. And so also just kind of giving a lay of the land on kind of this whole like flow of how people use it. And we'll start with artists because that's the whole reason why we all do what we do. So an artist, producer, engineer, we'll just kind of loop them in one for the sake of this beautiful graphic. They're making the music, they're bouncing the sessions, and then where does it go? So it goes into disco. They can just throw Ableton files or whatever they're using in there. Then they're giving it to their manager. Manager has access to the disco, so they can go in, grab the files they need, make a presentation, to then send either this route, which is A&R. So I'm either sending it to like a publishing A&R or a label A&R. That community is using disco as well because they get, thousands of files sent to them and they need a place to organize and find things. So you send it to them, and then A&R will either send it to promo to start blasting out to radio, DSPs, editorial. And again, this is like linking everything in one system so we don't have to download. Or an A&R at a manager. I guess let's use the example of your manager gets you a publishing deal and they sent it on disco. The A&R then is kind of working with you to refine whatever needs to be refined for the project. And then once it's ready, they'll send it to the sync team. And then the sync team is now pitching it for film, TV, advertising opportunities. And then that sync team is sending it to music supervisors who are actually buying your music, licensing it, using it in projects. Or on the publishing side, the A&R will pitch you to a label A&R. So maybe the song, maybe they're pitching, I don't know, to like Dua Lipa. Like, oh, this would fit like her vibe. So they send it to Dua Lipa's A&R who's on disco, goes into their system and they can find it. And then they send that to Dua Lipa on disco. So this is like, I was trying to figure out like a nice way, like a visual guide on like how it trickles down. So hopefully that kind of explains it somewhat well.
That makes sense. I mean, when we touched upon the Australian music industry, I guess, it's really quite professional, and you would have people with their dedicated tasks. Sometimes, I guess, what we find here, that sometimes the artist would be doing some of the things that manager does, and manager does some of the things that A&R does. So there's sometimes a bit of an overlap of what's being done. So it's just an insight. I don't know if that probably doesn't change much, but just an insight how things kind of work here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you touched a little bit upon Ableton files.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any digital audio workstations that Disco supports, and how does it work? Can you actually share the stems? Can you share the project file? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
You can. I mean, the largest file size that Disco can support is 8 gigabytes, so just think about that. But a lot of people just drag in their Ableton sessions. It's probably fine. Future of Disco, we actually really want to connect with the DAWs to where it's just like a push of a button in Ableton, and it goes into Disco. So future iterations there, but right now it would be just like
So is it like on pre-release stage, the artists in the studio, they haven't released a track just yet, but they made a project. They can upload that project on Disco.
Yes.
And that can be shared by manager, whoever the manager is, sometimes the artist himself, to music professionals.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Who sometimes are the same person as well.
Yeah. I guess another way to think about it is Disco's your bank, and your music is your money, your gems, or whatever. I don't know. But
assets.
It's like
Assets. Yeah.
Gems. I mean, they are gems too.
It's an asset.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So you need like a safe place to store that. I know a lot of artists or managers will use hard drives. Fine. What if that hard drive breaks? Yeah. What if you lose it? You're screwed unless it's backed up. So it's also like a safe, secure,
it's probably
cloud-based.
Best to have it in two places, right? Both in the cloud. I assume everything's stored somewhere in LA or whatever.
Multiple servers globally and backed up into
right.
servers in different regions. So in case one goes down,
right,
the other one's up. But our
even
uptime
better.
is like 99.9% of the time.
Right, and then your hard drive as well, which you
yes.
keep someone safe.
Yes.
So that's the safest thing.
Yep. It doesn't. Sometimes there'll be blunders and glitches, right? But our team gets like flagged immediately and starts troubleshooting. I think the last time there was like a little outage, it was like 10 minutes. So, yeah. Also because we have like major deals with the major labels and some huge corporations like Disney and Warner Brothers, it's like in our contracts with them that like we have to maintain an uptime or they come for you.
Yeah, it's a similar thing with music distributors. Just being a little bit of music distributor myself, just to say like sometimes you'd have labels who would only store content with the music distributors, but usually music distributors also say just have your own backup. We'll try to make sure that we keep it, but have your own backup. So I guess the same applies here. You'll make sure that everything is resilient and is there and nothing crashes, but have your own backup anyway.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
Just generally best practice, right?
Yeah. I know some artists who, I remember asking them like, oh, where are your files? And they're like, oh, with my distributor. It's like, okay, great, we want that out there. Yeah. But like, what if you need that for something? If you go to your distributor to try and get that file, I don't know how long it'll take them to get it back to you, you know? So just you guys need to control and own everything.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that later. We're gonna now go into what disco looks like, and we get to use you as an example, my friend, your band, and he made it. So give him a round of applause. Okay, so this is a disco playlist. We're gonna kind of start with presentation and like how we send things, and then I'm gonna go into disco and kind of like reverse engineer how to make this. But this is what we call a disco page, and this is what we use when we have a new single, a new release, when we really want to tell the story of our artist or us as an artist band. Because if you look at this, you're just like, whoa, these guys look cool. Like, what's their music like? I can already sense a vibe. Where if I just sent like a Dropbox link, it's just like, you know, that like the icon of like a folder. Not really wowing me.
Not really made for music, right?
No. So just to kind of hone in on that point, like, okay, this is made for music. This looks like music. People are going to be intrigued. And, you know, first impressions matter. And also thinking about, depending on who you're pitching to, people get hundreds of emails a day. So, like, what can you do that makes you stand out? Even just a little bit. Even if most people are using disco, that's fine. You can still add your own spin to it and make it your own. So here we have the promo photo for them. We have a bunch of info on all their success, Eurovision, live shows, discography in one spot, and I can link out, and these go to Spotify. We've noted awards and achievements and what they're currently up to. And then, and this can be obviously customized depending on the campaign and who you're pitching to, but just a nice place to add a message or some press info. All their social links are in one spot. Before it would be like maybe a PDF and maybe just like copy and paste in an email. That's too much work for people. Not to say we have to totally dumb things down for people, but we kind of do. Like reducing the cognitive load for people and just directing them on where you want them to go. So here we have all their social links and then a player of their music. Also have lyrics right here. So as I'm listening, I can just read these along. And this seems like a minor thing, but it's actually not. Disco is a true playlist function. So I hit play, and then maybe I go to another tab, or I go wash dishes, or whatever it is. The music still plays. If you send Box, Dropbox, etc., it stops after that first track. So now we're just missing out on that opportunity of like capturing someone again.
This music has to be uploaded beforehand, or are you also able to pull the data from music services like Spotify, Apple, and the rest on these pages?
Really good question. No, you have to have the like raw file.
Okay, so you have to upload it yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And can you enable file downloads like MP3 master file?
Yes, so this is streaming only. As you can see, I can't download, but if I go over to my Big Thief example. Oh wait, was yours streaming only? Yeah, it was. Okay. Wow, secret. I know, but I had the password. Yeah, good point. You can password protect, set a link to expire, watermark it. And watermarking is good for, like a lot of the majors will use it, like super like high security sensitive music that's going out just to trace a leak. Indie artists, I don't know, depends on how precious you are about your music. I certainly know a lot of people that are like, I don't care. Listen to it, download it, rip it. But anyway, so this one you can see I can download the MP3 or the original, which would be the WAV or the AIF. So if you upload a WAV into Disco, we'll automatically make an MP3, so you don't have to convert that file somewhere else. Happens automatically, and then you decide when you're sending it to your recipients, do you want to give them access to all of those files? Also, there is a nesting functionality. So if you have your instrumentals, your stems, your alt mixes, radio mixes, whatever, they're all paired together, as you can see in one spot, rather than separate files, which is just more clutter. And then you can add sections, which is a good place to know where you can put like photos. Well, maybe we go back to this one because I think, oh no, you don't have a section. Never mind. You can add a section to have like press release, photos, charts, lyric sheets, whatever is related to the campaign, just in a nice little section so people know. And then a video. And this can be linked from YouTube, as you can see, Vimeo, or if you have the native file uploaded into Disco. So again, core database for everything because you can store every asset related to your music.
That's great. Any questions, insights, thoughts? Let's go with the mic.
Have you ever encountered companies or artists or managers who you approached to propose to use Disco, for example, and they declined? And why do you think that was? What kind of arguments they...
Wow, that's such a good question. How do I answer that? Because it really depends on the business. I didn't even give an intro about like who I am and what I've done. I just realized I kind of just got into it.
There's no structure to this, right?
There isn't. We're just flying by.
You can do the intro now.
So I worked at Disco for 7 years. So to answer that question, you're giving me a little PTSD. No, not really. And I do sales and business development. So that is literally my job to be like, hey, what are the pain points you're having? What are the challenges? I think I have a solution for you. Let's work together. When people don't adopt Disco, there's a couple reasons. One, if I'm talking about like a major company, like business, It's usually, they always do come around, which is why I'm having a hard time answering this question. But usually I have to like talk to like 50 different people at a company to like plead the case, really, and show the value. And so sometimes it just takes a long time to like really find where the true challenge is and if I can solve for it. Man, I think most of the time it's like budget, or maybe people just aren't ready they're like not in that stage in their career. Like if we think about artists that we work with, because disco is really when you're like, I am ready to meet businesses and make connections and like take my career to the next level. If you're not there then you maybe don't really need disco. But other than that, I mean, there are certain businesses that, you really asked a good question.
I guess you have to have a lot of catalog, not a lot of, but some catalog at least to make it worthwhile, right?
Yeah. Okay, so production music sometimes isn't ready for disco, or disco isn't ready for them, I'd say. So is everyone familiar with like production music?
It's kind of like film music and that sort of thing.
It's like music that is specifically created for film and TV. So, great example. Are you guys watching Selling Sunset? Okay, you're my girl. Same. I know. Guilty pleasure. Music is interesting. It's clearly written for a reality TV show. It's not like an artist who, it's their art and they're like, you know, expressing themselves and releasing it, and then there's a great home for it in a film. It's like, I want this to be in a reality show. So though that type of music, they do like blanket deals. So they'll do a deal with Netflix or Amazon where it's like all you can eat. They pay X amount a year, $50,000 a year, and they can use any song from that library. Right. So some of that workflow is like very complex that we're trying to solve for right now, but there's other tools that just plug into like where the editors at Netflix work, and they can pull anything they want and they don't need to get approval. So some of that workflow, disco isn't quite there yet. Other than that, I mean, they always come around. I know that's kind of a silly answer, but like if you're working with music files and sharing, like, there's nothing really that compares. So
what about dance music producers and DJs?
Wait, say that again?
Dance music producers and DJs. They like to send files around and to one another, and both playlist pictures and other DJs to play their songs. Do you have many of them using disco? Yeah,
we do. And we've had a lot of people who are DJing want to use disco as like play from disco, so they don't have to, you know, move it into another system, because they are using it as their centralized library. But there's so much more we can do with the DJ community for sure. Plug into Sorrento and all that, so yeah.
Right. Cool. Good question, Agla.
So as an agency, is it possible to have different artists under one account, or should we have, you know, separate accounts for different artists and just log in, log out every time? How's that work?
Yeah, good question. So I would recommend having one disco for your agency, and then all of the artists that you represent are in that disco, and you can create pages like this for each artist. Then each artist you work with, if it makes sense for them, they could have their own disco as well. We have a disco for artist account. And so that is unlimited storage and like auto tagging and like 2 seats, so they can have a seat for their manager. So if they're looking for some place to store everything as well, so then you guys can just like bounce files back and forth to each other, which is nice. So to give you an example, it's maybe a good segue into like the back end of disco. And so we'll use you guys as an example. So let's say this is your back end of disco, which all the agents, the whole team has access to, not the artists, but they'll send stuff to you. And so this is really a feed of all of the playlists that me and my teammates have created most recently. And then when we talk about organizing, that's where channels come in over here on the left. And so you would have, I'm just going to sort this. You would have a main folder called artists or roster or catalog. And then each artist you work with has its own folder. And then within this subfolder, you have more folders. So you can get like, if you're type A and like love organization, this is like ticking all of those boxes. So then I have all of the different assets broken out in a subfolder. Their albums, contracts, music videos, press, unreleased music. And then within those folders, I have my playlists. And then those are kind of the things I'm pitching out as I need to. So I could also have, let's say Ben Daniel here is one of our artists. This functionality that I'm about to describe is coming in like a month or two, which is shared channels. So that point of like, if an artist that you work with has disco, let's say it's Ben, in his disco, he's just dragging new music in here for you. And then in your company disco, you get those live updates that Ben sent you new music. So then there's like this consistency on like, I know exactly what files I have, the metadata's there, etc.
Much better than Google Drive. No offense to Google Drive, it's great.
No offense to Google Drive.
Just for music.
No offense to Dropbox, no offense to Box, no offense to SoundCloud.
Yeah.
But, well, okay, so that does bring me to a point on like importing music. We do have integrations with all those lovely companies. So if you do have music in your Dropbox and you're like, I need to present it in a better way, I can just click on these 2 songs I want to send, and then they'll upload into Disco, and then I make my playlist. Or if you have files on your desktop or someone texted them to you, you would just drag and drop them into the playlist creator on the right. So I imagine I'm not going to actually upload those songs because it's going to take too long. So I'll just drag some in already. There we go. Okay, so I've uploaded all of these tracks. And let's say these are demos. We talked about sections earlier. This is where maybe we'll want to showcase, I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe we're sending music to an A&R. And so we're sending maybe like different genre options. So maybe we're like, okay, here's some like folk songs. And then here's some rock songs, whatever direction they want to go creatively. I can just make it easy for them to access those particular songs. So then I'll hit save. And this is actually where we'll kind of reverse engineer those pages. So streaming only, you can just toggle that on and off. So if you want to enable downloads, great. If you're not ready for people to access that way, fine. Let's say you make something streaming only and the next day you're like, I don't care, they can download it. You can just come in here and toggle that off, and then you don't have to resend the link. It just auto updates for you. Choose whether or not to send nested versions. So those are like instrumental stems. Again, store everything in Disco and just choose what you deliver. And then lyrics. Okay. If you're not adding lyrics to the metadata, please do so. It's incredibly crucial, especially if you're pitching for sync. Supervisors or sync agents do specific lyric searches 90% of the time, especially ads. They're like, okay, we need it to hit like on fire, need that lyric on fire. So if you don't have lyrics in there, you're gonna miss out on an opportunity. So make sure you're adding that in metadata, which we'll get to in a second. And then watermarking, sending MP3 only. You can see there's like so much flexibility, like you're in control on how you wanna deliver things. And then this is a demo example, but if you're sending a single or you have an EP coming out, you can link an actual release date to it. So you can do that here. And then adding it to a channel. So this is like how you organize and file away. So add it to for an agency, and this is for a particular artist. We send it to their folder. If we're a manager, we link it to the right artist that we're managing folder. If you're an artist, I mean, you can organize by channels, but sometimes you can just go willy-nilly with it because you probably know where everything is. So once those settings are done, you go into presentation mode to make things look like this. And so an artist page and an album page look almost exactly the same. The only difference is an album page would have album artwork and a release date. If you don't have that, or you just want to send maybe like a sampler of your music or your artist, you can just do an artist page. And then there's a default playlist, which I will show you what it looks like in a second, but it just doesn't have that presentation look to it. It still looks good, but it's more like, I just need to send a file. I don't care about how it looks. So, and so to make the presentation, it's really, really easy. It's like you link the artist here. It'll come in automatically through the metadata, and then it will automatically pull in artwork that you've uploaded once, but then you're good for however long you need to. Add a bio. That's that section that we looked at the top, and any press info. Social links go here. Again, you only have to input that once. You have your player. You add your video. Save. I mean, that's it. It's pretty easy. So you hit save, and then the playlist gets filed away, so you always know where it lives. And then you get the listening link that you send to whoever. Boom, there it is. Any questions on that part? Yeah, great question. Alias metadata is a bit of an advanced feature. I can show it to you, but it might blow your brain. Or blow your mind, blow your brain.
That's what we hear.
Okay. So alias metadata, actually alias metadata is probably one of my favorite features in Disco because it lets you hide metadata or change the metadata based on who you're sending it to, but retaining the original data in your Disco. Example. I'm sending to an A&R, and actually I haven't really solidified the name of the song, but I want to tailor like a song title to what I think is going to resonate for them. So instead of this being contact details, I'm going to say it's like sunny day. So save that. And then I'm just going to make this default playlist real quick. I'm going to preview it. So remember that first song was called Contact Details. And this is default Disco playlist, by the way. And now it's changed to Sunny Day. So that's alias metadata. Supervisors use that a ton. When they send stuff to like their director or creative team, and they want to blind audition songs. So they'll do it for like indie artists or major label artists when they want an unbiased opinion of the song. You don't need to know this is Rihanna. I just need you to listen to the music. So they'll totally wipe the metadata there. Let me finish with the sending a playlist, and then I do think, to your point, we should go into metadata because that is like super crucial.
Yeah, I was also about to ask about lyrics and also expand on that, but let's do that. And
yeah, I'll round out sending a playlist, and then let's get into it. So you can send this link out, easy, copy paste, WhatsApp it, Slack it, email it, whatever. What I recommend people doing 99% of the time, though, is clicking into share this playlist and linking the playlist to the person you're sending it to, so you get stats. Everyone in the world should assume that we're stalking everybody. And we know if you've opened our email, if you've opened our playlist, what songs you've listened to. So it's a little stalkery, but it's important, I think. So you can just put in the email here. So I'm going to send this to AJ. Hit assign URL. Now, a unique link here is connected to her email. So when I send this off, I can watch what she's doing. Which is really just, did she open it, did she stream it, did she download?
And if you didn't get any feedback, at least you know that someone's listened to it, right?
This is where you know who the true ones are. Because some people will be like, oh, I loved it, I listened to it. And then it's like, the data don't lie, you know? So anyway, highly recommend always using that. And not only to like see who's a truth teller or not, but to like actually just service people better by seeing, okay, they are constantly into this like particular folk music I'm always sending them, or this pop music. So as you start working with more artists, you start making more music, you know who's gonna love it, and you can get it to them like quickly and like do creative things with them. So you always have a historical record of what your recipients have listened to. Always. Any questions on that? Are you guys are you guys stalking people already? Great. As long as it's free. Yeah, well, for some statistics you have to pay. Oh yeah. No. You can have them in Disco. And so what that looks like is attached to each playlist is a menu. And then, so here, the 3-dot menu, and I can go into stats. And then here's everybody I've sent this playlist to with the page views, the playlist downloads, the track downloads, and the streams. And then for the track downloads and streams, if I hover over the number, I can see what the songs were.
Can you have a predefined list of the people that you want to send links to? You don't need to re-enter it every time.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. Yes. So we're sending stuff to the same people, right? So in Disco, you can create mailing lists. So you can have like your music supervisors in LA, your A&Rs in New York, DSPs, editorial, bloggers, whatever it is. You can just upload like a CSV in Disco, so it's all managed there. And it's still thinking, but it's just a list here with all of their email addresses in. So for sake of time, I won't wait for that to load. But basically what you would do is either two things. One, you can, when you're sending in this mode where we just were, you just type in the mailing list name, it BCCs everyone, and then you just send it out. One email.
Right. There's usually also just a pain point with how spam's treated. Does it ever end up in people's spams folders? How do you get around that issue when sending music to people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we had a situation recently where stuff was ending up in spam, and our customers let us know like instantly. So we're like on the case. Right. And so we made some adjustments recently on, I'm not really an email domain expert, to be honest, but I know the team worked really hard to make sure that we don't end up in spam. So there was like a couple days where it was happening, but now so that's rectified.
To make adjustments.
Yeah, so we've made those adjustments, and we found that most of the open rates when you're sending out of Disco, especially like an email newsletter, which you can do, is about 42% open rates, which is way above industry standard. I think the reason for that is like Disco's a trusted source and people are engaging with it. So like, I don't know, emailing is a whole other beast, but like you have they have like, you know, ratings. So if people are engaging with your email, then it's more likely that it won't get caught in spam. So, so yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's one way to send, or as I just mentioned, there is an email builder in Disco. So if you use MailChimp or Constant Contact or anything like that, you don't need to. You can just send it out of Disco, which is pretty basic email newsletter. I mean, you can send it to your fans, you can send it to industry. This one isn't that sexy, but you can at least see, like, you can just, like, it's like any of them. Drag and drop a photo or copy, whatever it might be. The two main differences of ours versus others, I think the best one is that you get the granular stats. So if you do have a new release and you send it via the email creator, you can see from that mailing list who engaged with the music. If you sent that via somewhere else, you only see open rates. So that's cool. And then you can just like drag a playlist straight into the body of the email.
How does it work when, like, you have a mailing list, but you haven't explicitly asked people whether you want to send the music? And what happens if you put them in the mailing list and just send them stuff? Can they opt
Wait, you guys are in
out, or-
Europe.
Yeah.
Isn't that like super strict here, GDPR?
It's kind of getting there, right?
You'll go to jail. No.
Yeah, honestly, you just can't send people emails in big batches unless they consented to it and did the checkbox and said, yeah, I'm okay with that. Do you have how do you manage this?
That's a really good question. We don't manage it in app. You would have to have other system that's approving that. So when you do upload your mailing list into Disco, we do ask, like, does everyone have permission here? So, yeah.
So you have to get it in advance, like
Yeah.
get people to sign up to a mailing list or something, and then
And we
collect
don't
their
have that
emails.
functionality
Okay.
yet where you can subscribe and then it automatically links into our newsletter.
Yeah. But there's
coming
ways to
soon.
do it for an
Yeah.
artist, like if you're
Yeah.
doing a live show or release something.
Yeah.
There's ways
Yeah.
to doing it.
Yep. Let me see if I have a better example. Because I think showing the playlist in the newsletter is actually kind of cool. Okay, this one looks better than that last one. There's my track. Listen here. So again, it looks like a playlist. We love that. And then it just opens up into your link. Should we get into metadata?
Let's go.
Said no one ever. But you guys are into it. No, metadata is so important. It's like sometimes the least sexy part of what we all do, but like if we don't have it, then we don't get paid and we don't get opportunities. So the cool thing is you can manage all of that in Disco, of course. So I'm going to go into a song here, and there's this information hover, and I can pop this open, which gives me the ID3 fields. So this is pretty standard. This should always be filled out if you have the information, and all of this will travel with the song when you send it, as long as it's an MP3 or an AIF. Does everyone know waves don't carry metadata? Okay, cool. A lot of people don't, and then they're like, it's broken. I'm like, nope, just the file. Cool. So this already has some in here. Maybe I know what that album is now, so I can add it in. It's Sunny Days again. Composer info. If people can get in the habit of, like, when we're in a session or like when we're bouncing the file to like add the writers in that moment, things are just so much easier. So what I always recommend is adding that in the writers tab first, because it'll automatically add to the composer field, so you don't have to input that twice. But this is just a singular area that kind of controls where all of the splits are. So Bob the writer, he's signed to Cobalt, and he's with ASCAP, and he wrote 90%. And then I put in me, Pure Music, ASCAP, and I wrote 10%. Super important to have this, hopefully for reasons we know, but if we don't have the splits, then it's just harder to clear things, especially in sync, and just creates more complexities when we need to do royalty statements and get paid for opportunities. So that is here. Looks like it duplicated it. It should not do that. Any questions on splits? Okay.
I just generally have a question whether you can import this metadata from a distributor that you're already working with, or perhaps after you've entered everything here, maybe you can send that data to a distributor.
Really good question. So we do have DDEX feeds set up with many distributors, and that just means we can hit up Fuga, Audio Salad, Idol, PS, whoever you work with, and they'll send a feed of your whole catalog into Disco and then new releases.
Right.
So we don't have to download and upload. Now, sending it to a distributor, TBD.
Yeah.
TBD. We really want to do that.
It kind of makes sense because you're uploading unreleased music here. And then that unreleased music has to go to the music services through a distributor. So
Yeah, exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's like super top of mind for us right now, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it looks something like you create your Disco profile, you choose your distributor, and then I go in here and I hit send to Fuga.
Right.
But the hard part is every distributor has their own method of how they want to receive and the different data they have, so we'll have to figure that out, but we will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, back to metadata. The other thing is, let's say this is one full album. Instead of going into each file to add the album name or the genre, I can do it in batch. So I can just go edit all track metadata. This is just saving so much time. Put in the same album name, the grouping field, comments, etc. Done. Artwork, done. Grouping field is one of those metadata fields that everyone uses kind of differently, but what it should be is copyright information. So who controls the master and who controls the publishing? So if you have that, it's just going to be easier for people to work with you. So put that in. And then ISRC spot, BPM, which we can tag for you, which I'll get into in a second. And then comments is a great place to add contact details. So especially for licensing on pitching to music supervisors, they always look there to see who do I contact to clear this. Questions on metadata? Did everyone already know all that? Kind of, yeah. Cool. Tagging, let's get into that. Here's some tags. These are Disco AI generated. So we have our own machine learning that we built in-house, ethically trained model that we asked our customers, can we please use your music to train our AI? And they said, of course, here you go. And so it's really this like consistent language and tags that Sync specifically is using. So it knows anthemic and swagger and emotive and tons of different tags from mood and feel to genre. It does tempo, BPM, vocals, instrument. So I would say it probably covers 90% of the job. It's still a robot. It's still evolving. It does not have feelings. We still need humans to listen to music and add their own tags to it. So that's how a lot of my customers are using it. Do the core of it, and then I'll go in and QA it later. I think, too, for artists, sometimes they over-tag their music because they want it to be everything, and that can sometimes do a disservice to you. So at least using this as like the baseline is really important. Other things with our AI that Disco can do is a similarity search. This is great for like labels, publishers, agencies that have huge catalogs that their brains can't remember everything. So this is great for pitching to A&Rs or sync. So maybe an A&R comes to you and says, Ariana Grande wants a vibe that's like Joni Mitchell. I don't know. She's totally pivoting. So what kind of songs do you have that's in that vein? You can go into I'll show you, actually. But we don't have sound, so you're just going to have to trust. I grab a Joni Mitchell song from YouTube. And supervisors use disco like this as well. Their director says, oh, I want to clear a Joni Mitchell song. And they go in here and see who controls it, or what songs they have that sound similar. So put in the YouTube link. This is not connecting the tags, the AI tags. This is actually listening to the waveform and doing like a true sonic matching search. So we'll wait for it to do its thing, but it's indexing quite a few. So here are all the songs that are similar to this Joni Mitchell track. I can listen through them. I can tell the AI, yes, you did a good job. No, you didn't. So it's true machine learning, like getting better over time the more disco users globally are giving it feedback. So then here I can be like, great, I didn't even know that song was in here. Let's pitch it. Drag and drop, get my pitch going. The other thing with the AI is it can create instrumentals. So this doesn't have one. All I have to do is click this, and Disco will do its thing to take out the vocals. This is really used as like a pitching tool. Always great to have the actual mastered instrumental or stems, but if time is of the essence and you don't have $250 to pay an engineer to bounce it for you in an hour, this is really great. And then if you get the gig, you get the job, go and get it actually mastered. And so this will just nest them automatically. Next will be vocal extraction, and then we'll do more granular instruments. But that's kind of I think that's all of our AI functionalities. Tagging, sim search, instant instrumentals. Oh, lyric transcription. That's coming. It's actually in beta right now. But I think if you're an artist, like just put your own lyrics in there, you know them. But again, for like labels or like a lot of vintage catalogs I work with, they don't have those. So we can like bulk transcribe all of that for them, which again is really important for sync.
Yeah, I just actually wanted to get into a little bit more. Maybe you have some advice how to manage lyrics in general. Like you wrote a track, you have like a demo that's about to be released. How do you get on about lyrics? Do you just put them on the doc somewhere? Do you send them to Music Match? Do you upload it to Disco? Do you have like a master file for lyrics? How does that master file should look like? Anything from your experience on the best practice of managing this?
Yeah, definitely. And as we talked about metadata, we forgot to talk about lyrics. Okay, so in Disco, you would add your lyrics here. So because this is your database for everything, lyrics are stored here with the file. And then when you send it to your distributor or whoever distributor would distribute the lyrics to like Genius and Music Match, right?
To Apple, I think.
Yeah.
Accepts lyrics, but not many other DSPs. I think Spotify gets it from Music Match, so you have to upload them to Music Match.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And match them, yeah.
What do you mean
timing,
match them?
Yeah, the timing.
You have to manually time.
Yeah. That's
How
why
long
it's
does
such
that
an
take?
interesting topic, such a wide topic.
Yeah. Actually, I had a call with our product team 2 days ago about lyric transcription, just kind of understanding, I'm like, tell me how this thing got trained. How does this work? Everyone's going to ask me. And one thing that came up was like, are we going to do the timestamp lyrics like on Spotify? And the product team said definitely like can do that in the future, but for right now, just keep in mind like it'll just be in there. But when we do that, then hopefully maybe there's an integration with Music Match. I don't know. We can talk to them, API into them, so you don't have to do that manual work.
Even like on Disco, if you could have the help of the AI to maybe make the timestamps. Maybe you wrote the lyrics and you know what they are. They're pronounced in different ways, so it's hard for the AI to understand them. But if you can help with the timestamps, that already be big help. And maybe then you can even like paste it into Music Match or whatever.
Yeah,
or
not even paste it. We just
automated connection.
in some way. Yeah. Any questions on tagging? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go for it.
I am a classical musician, and I'm just wondering, do they use disco? Do any kind of other artists, not like performers, I would say, use disco? Not that people don't create original music, but they do recordings and they do sell their CDs.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because where do you store all of your assets now? Like for the recordings that you do?
On the disk, on the like a Google or something, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So instead of Google, you would use Disco to store all of those assets and manage that music library. And then when you send things to like, your manager, or you send stuff to DSPs or whoever it is, you're creating like, your presentation like this to send out. So instead of sending Google links, you send this.
Actually, people using it, of course it's possible, but is there an industry in there
For
classical
classical
musicians?
specifically? Mm-hmm. So all of the majors that have a classical department have what? Naxos is using Disco, and they're the largest classical catalog in the world. Who else? Who are the other ones?
And I guess
But
also what we said at the beginning, if you have your contacts that you made directly, you can still send them music, and they don't need an account. They can just listen through that page, right?
Yeah.
So if you send your music to someone already by email, and you send Google Drive links or Dropbox links, you can send that page instead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't need a Disco account.
Right.
If they want to, they can also get on Disco, but it's not mandatory. So it kind of eliminates that friction.
Yeah, definitely. And I know classical music is its own beast. Like there's so much there. So I brought up this section because it's like a custom field area. And so if we want to add anything about like original composition or I don't know. I'm still learning classical, to be honest. I onboarded Naxos and I learned so much. I was like, oh my gosh. But any like data sets that you need to have related to your music can be built out here. So just kind of thinking about that. And then with the tags, you can add your own tags. So maybe you want to note like different composers that you've done re-records for or whatever it might be can live in here too. So you can sort things that way. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay. I mean, the short answer is yes, of course.
Can you create custom tags?
Yes, you can.
For example, there's a big thing about genres because some of them don't exist. Artists just create, I play this doesn't exist anywhere. Can I create custom tags here and tag my tracks or something?
What's an example of a new genre that you've made up?
That's a good question.
What should we put? I'll show you.
Sunny day.
Sunny day. It's a new genre. Okay, you literally just type in the tag, create new tag, and then you assign it to a category. So this is a genre, create tag, and now it's in my schema, and I can pull it into any other.
Accessible to anyone.
Correct. Correct, because what I'll do is I'm going to go into Manage Tags to show you. This is where you can see all of your track tags. And I type in Sunny Day. It's a genre. And there's these share settings. So I can choose whether or not that tag travels with the music. A lot of times people put like exclusive, on hold, demo. And I don't want any client or recipient to see that. It's just internal, so you can do that here. And you can also add a color indicator. Yellow, obviously. So that way, when I go back to browse, I actually don't know where I put the sunny days. Well, this is an example. See, this has a red dot. That's do not pitch. So it's like that quick little visual guide on the status of a song. But I will say, to trigger the tags to deliver to other people, you do have to change a setting to do that, because by default, it's just internal. And it is, I went to settings, business settings, and then write native tags to comments metadata field on download. So all those tags go to comments. It goes after whatever data's there. So when the music goes into someone else's disco or their iTunes, if they're still using that, and they do a search, your stuff comes up. Metadata, pitching, tagging, organizing. What else? Oh, receiving music. We're kind of jumping all around, sorry. Receiving music is probably what we first should have talked about. But inboxes is the whole reason disco was created. So our founder was like, I really don't want to download and upload anymore. I want people to just send music to me. And so this was the first functionality built. So whether you're a manager and you need artists to send you music, you're an artist and you need your producer to send you mixes, whatever it is, you can just send this link to whoever and tell them this is the way to upload music to me. This is the only way I accept. So it'll say send files to your business name. They don't need Disco to send. They just need this link. Put in their details, add a message, grab the songs from their Finder or wherever. If they have Disco already, they just copy and paste their playlist link, hit send, and then those files end up in a feed for you to review. Almost think of this as like a to-do list. It's like, oh, I received all this music. I need to tag, I need to listen to it. I need to make a pitch for it, whatever it is.
So this is if you're a music supervisor or sync manager or, I don't know, anyone who's receiving music really, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this feature right here is why supervisors love Disco. Right. Because they get thousands of pitches a week and they don't have to do anything to get them. They just come here. There's a mobile app. They listen on the phone, listen in their car. Easy to get through stuff.
And they can manage the stuff that they've listened to already and haven't.
Yeah, exactly.
No need of dragging folders on your desktop or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how a supervisor might use it is like RCA sent them submissions. Okay, this is for a project I'm working on. So they'll listen to it, they'll tag it. Maybe they will just, oh, this is only one song. But they're like, I only want this one song. And then I'll delete the rest because I don't need it. Or I just grab Beethoven Symphony No. 9 and save it into my project folder for this TV show I'm working on. And then I create my pitch and I send it to the creative director.
That's great.
Any questions on receiving music?
Ish. So basically, Disco is, apart from being a file sharing platform, right? Is it possible for music supervisors to use it as a search engine? I don't know, for music. Just I don't have it in my catalog, but I'm in the mood to find something new. I just type in whatever, Sunny Days, or and find a new music that hasn't been sent to me, for example.
It's almost like you were reading my mind. That's where we're going next. Yes, there is that possibility. So let's use the same example of this Joni Mitchell song. So a supervisor puts this track in, and they have all of these songs that have been saved in their disco, and it has been pitched to them at some point. But then I scroll down, and I see more tracks from across disco. This is where various rights holders and artists and producers, whoever, have opted in to give music supervisors access to find it. So, and that's part of like a catalog, which I'll show you guys in a second. But here I can see Hypnosis, Wise Music, Midnight Choir, Cozy Music, Believe. All of these rights holders have songs that sound like this Joni Mitchell track. And so I can click into the song, view some of their tags, and I know Patrick is my contact at Hypnosis, and I can just send him an email and say, I'd really like to license this song, please. Or I can go into Hypnosis Disco catalog and do some more digging. So as an agency, I would totally recommend having something like this that highlights all of your artists. A manager, I would have all the artists you manage in a catalog like this. Individual artists, maybe not so much. We definitely want to find a solution to give indie artists who don't have any representation access to supervisors. We're still figuring out kind of the best way to do this. I mean, you certainly can create one, but this is like, I think if you have less than like 100 songs, it looks a little like bare. Like there's not a lot in it because it is like a searchable catalog. So this is an extension of Hypnosis's Disco, but just a portion of the catalog that they say, supervisors, go to town on this, have fun, create, dig, license what you want. So when we talked about tagging earlier, all of those tags are mirrored into this catalog, so it's easy for people to find. It's a good user experience. So I can say like, oh, I do need something a la ABBA. And this is a custom tag they put in for sounds like. And then I can go into this track called Sunny, okay, and view some additional tags here. And they did a really good job of highlighting like who their publishing partners are and how much they control. And so as a supervisor, I'm like, cool, I love this song. This is going to work for my project. I can send them a licensing request form. Oh, I need to log in to show you. Actually, let me use Sun Records because I know I can get into theirs. Oh, I got kicked out of everybody's. Sometimes this happens, which is good because you should be having to log in every so often for security. Wow, okay, we got there. Thanks for your patience on that one. Okay, so it's a very lightweight form, but at least like eliminates an email and gets the info to the person I need to license the music from. So the supervisor will say, this is a feature film, this is my project name, my budget is over 10,000, I need the full track, and here's some more info, blah, blah, blah. Send, and this goes to Chase, who's the licensing contact. He gets an email, in-app notification, someone wants to use your music right now, let's get on the phone, let's talk about it, negotiate, clear it, go for it. So again, we're just trying to like bridge more of those gaps and make things easier. So that's one way someone can find music in the catalog. The other is they just want to like peruse around and be like, what's new from Sun Records? Which is actually surprisingly a lot. They sign new music. It's not just legacy like Johnny Cash stuff. So they can go in and just save it to their disco. They can add it to a playlist, whatever they need. So it just really allows people to have autonomy to dig in your catalog and find what they want.
It's great also because if a local artist, you can sign up to Disco, you kind of get exposure also to all of those music supervisors, right? Can you actually pitch the music proactively, or is it more about them finding your music through, I don't know, maybe suggested tracks, or yeah, essentially, can you proactively pitch the music and find people on the platform?
Yes and no. I think for right now, the best way is to have a catalog and be in this discovery area. What we're working on next is briefing in Disco. So where a supervisor, because time is always of the essence for supervisors. They need something in like 30 minutes sometimes. So they can just send a blast out of Disco. So let's say you're in here working, listening to music. You'll get like a pop-up that's like Nike brief needs female empowerment, hip hop songs by 3 p.m. Pacific time. And then you can just like drag your options in disco. So we're working on that now. At this point, it'll be early next year. So, and that way we'll like facilitate briefing as it comes up. But for now, it's really about like building those relationships with music supervisors. I certainly recommend working with a sync agent. Does anyone work with a sync agent now? I recommend working with them for multiple reasons. One, it is a full-time job to pitch music and to keep on top of all of the shows, all of the ads. Music supervisors move jobs constantly, who's working where. So getting a sync agent who is based, I would say, either in London, New York, or LA, and really LA, because I'm out, I see supervisors constantly. They're out all the time. So the relationships there are really strong. And so getting someone who can represent your music and pitch for you is great. Never, ever, ever work with someone that is like pay to play. Like you should never pay for representation. They'll just take a percentage of the license that they get. And usually it's like 30 to 40%.
So they get paid when they actually bring value,
Exactly.
right?
And so, yeah, if anyone wants to talk about like getting sync representation, like I'm happy to give you some advice on the ones that I think are really great and connect you with them. Of course, you're going to have to make a disco playlist to send to them because they're all using disco, and then they'll be like, oh, they'll be delightful to work with because they probably have their metadata together. So yeah, that's what I recommend. Get a sync rep if you want to get into that area. Yeah.
Regarding this section of more tracks from across disco, of whatever is recommended on regarding like tags or mood, is there any logic in the chronology of them, or algorithm or something? Like what's at the top and how does it work?
So for this specifically, because I put in a YouTube link, it's looking at the strongest match sonically. If I did like indie folk, I actually don't know how this one gets pulled, what the relevancy is. I should find that out. Yeah. Yeah, by the tags, I'm not sure. It can't be random. It might be random. As long as the like indie folk is tagged somewhere, it should just come up. I didn't make that super specific. That's really broad. So everything could come up. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'll find out though, and I'll tell you later.
Good question.
It is a really good question. You're coming in with the hard-hitting ones. Boom. Okay, so with more tracks from across disco, this is aggregating everything from Discover Music. And this is more of like individual storefronts. Let's describe it that way. So what's up top is we have music supervisors curate their favorite music that they found in disco. And so Taylor Rowley made the current one. And yeah, this is our 5th volume, which is fun just to see like what music supervisors are vibing with. And we have them write like a little editorial about why they love this song, how they found it. But usually here we'll also rotate out rights holders or artists. We had a feature with Leonard Cohen, Brian Eno, Sun Records, Sony Publishing. It's not pay to play either. It's like honestly just who we think has really good music and who we have relationships with, and we put them up here. And then we blast that out to all music supervisors. And then Soups will also come down here and just kind of peruse through different catalogs. And so likely what they do is they kind of know who they're looking for already. If they want to go by like genre, they use the more tracks from across disco that I just showed you. But if they're in here and they're like, oh, does Partisan have a disco? Yes, they do. Cool. I love this label so much. I want to see what the new releases are. And so they'll go in here and kind of peruse that way. So always start with building a catalog, then putting it in that feed and using that to like market things around. What else? What have we not covered that is important for you guys?
I have one thought.
Yes.
Pricing. We needed to get there at some point.
Yes. So different
Now.
tiers. Let me show you. So for our artist plan, that is... Okay, artist is $12 a month. Unlimited
Very
storage.
Fair. Very fair.
Store everything in there. 2 users, so give a seat to your manager, a collaborator. You also get the auto tagging for free. Well, not free, but it's included for $12. Email creator, wave to AIF converter, all the playlist security, so password protected, expiry links. And that's new. We just launched that last year because we found like 40% of our users were artists, but we never like made disco for artists. It was more like business side. We're like, cool, this is great, but there's just a couple things we needed to do to make it a little bit more valuable. So, which was unlimited storage. So there's that. And then otherwise, if you're a business, Plus or Pro is kind of the way to go. Pro just gives you a little bit more security features. You can link to your distributor. You can create custom fields, and that's $25 per user per month and $6 per 1,000 tracks. And then Plus is $15 per user and $6 per 1,000 tracks. There's a whole feature breakdown here. I mean, Pro is kind of the way to go if you're a pro, professional, and you need all the things. Tagging and the catalogs is an add-on, and that just kind of depends on how many tracks you want to throw in. So. And
also, if you're a music manager, and there was a question, I think if you're a music manager and you have multiple bands, so you need the Plus or the Pro plan, I assume, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just single artist, you can get the artist.
Yep.
And you can get your team on it with as many users as you want, right?
Yep.
The more users, the more slightly the price increases, right?
Yep. Yep.
But if you're a manager or a label or catalog owner, you need Plus or a Pro.
Yep, exactly. Right. And if people, I don't think anyone here fits in this category, but oftentimes I work with companies where we connect Disco to their internal systems. So you just API things, so it's like everything just kind of shoots back and forth to each other, and there's a lot of extra security features there, but it feels like this crew is definitely one of these 3. And on that note, if you want to start a free trial, you can use this QR code. Now I'm watching everyone who's getting their phones out. So 2-week free trial. And then if you guys have any questions after this, I mean, we can still keep chatting, but I want to make sure you guys have my email, Katrina@disco.ec. Any questions that come up after this, if you're in LA, if there's certain people you want to connect with, like, please, let's stay in touch, and I'm always happy to help.
Sounds like a rap.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. Do we learn something new?
We can make it
feeling good?
It wasn't very official, but we can make it officially unofficial. Any questions? Chat around. Yeah?
Cool.
It's a wrap. Round of applause.
But, okay, take it.
We need to do the applause, proper applause.
If you don't have plans after this, I think we want to do a little like happy hour vibes on Disco. Drinks on me. So if you guys want to hang out wherever Vilma says we're going, we're going. And thank you guys very, very much for coming and being a great audience, asking great questions. Let's get some exposure for all of our music.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, guys.